Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the On Season. We are just a little less than an hour away from the draft. It's finally here. We're going to get you ready here on the On Season's live pre-draft show with myself and always my partner, Jason Sonny, my partner in crime. A lot of rumors, Jason, a lot of different names. We're less than an hour away. Where's your head out here heading into the first round of the draft tonight?
Just about to explode, if that's the appropriate answer, because this is in a good way. A lot of information, a lot of misinformation, a lot of smoke, a lot of rumors, but ultimately, as Dolphin fans, and I say this with a tiny bit of trepidation, it's gonna be really hard to screw this pick up with all these conjectures and rumors out there, whether it's Mason Graham falling, win, whether it's latest rumor a couple of hours ago, Gray Zabel, Steve Weich, NFL Network insider, lock of the night. I mean, that is a rather big matzo ball to throw out there.
That's a strong. Steve's pretty good. Steve's pretty good. And the thing is, I saw, was it Daniel Jeremiah's mock?
The trade down.
Yeah, and I saw another mock. In his mock, he had Greg Zabel going 11 to the 49ers. And then before we get into, people are going to freak out Greg Zabel. Greg Zabel's a really good football player.
Yes, he is.
He can play probably every position on the offensive line. I know some teams I've heard like him best at center, but he plays left tackle. He can play guard. He's real nasty. He did unbelievably well at the Senior Bowl. I think he won the MVP. So he played for North Dakota State, but he went up with all the Power 5 schools and dominated at the Senior Bowl. You put on the tape, his pass pro, his feet. He holds anchor. He's athletic. He had 36.5-inch vertical leap. So he's a player I have ranked, and we'll get into my big board. All right, I'm dropping the 100 big board here tonight, getting you ready for the draft. He's a player that I have, spoiler, at 29. But, guys, don't worry. This exercise, when you're putting together the big board, between 14, 15, and 29, you have trouble. There's a minute difference. There is not much difference between the guys. So this draft is all about, since players are so close and there's not a big difference between 15 to 25, 15 to 35, it's what you need. All right. To me, this draft is all about what you need. So Greg Zabel at 13, I don't think it's a reach. What do you think about the trade back possibilities? A lot of noise. Tom Pelissero reported Dolphins are one of the teams looking to move back. Broncos are looking to move up. And I think teams want to get ahead of Indianapolis. We're at a good spot because Indianapolis is that second tight end spot. Maybe somebody who wants Loveland has to jump in front of the Colts at 14. What are your thoughts on the trade up?
Well, I threw my hand
or trade back. Sorry, yeah.
I know what you mean. I threw my hand into a 32-team mock draft earlier today. Put it out on Dolphins Wire, and I actually had a trade up for the quarterback with the Dolphins with the Steelers. So yeah, I think that and this was before the Gray Zabel rumors, and this was also after the Mason Graham conjecture that he's going to be passed over by the Jaguars. But pump the brakes, Dolphin fans, on Mason Graham, because 2 or 3 teams he's going to have to get by to even get to 13. So in the hypothetical world that the Genty rumor to Jacksonville is true, you're looking at the Jets where Graham is in play. You're looking at maybe even the Niners. You're looking at the Bears, all before 13. So I assumed that he was going to be dangled in front of us, and just like us knowing it's happened to us before, player goes right before you want him, So in that case, there are a couple of players that's going to be really difficult to say, I'm going to pass on and I'm going to trade back. But then there are a couple of players that you could put in a pool and bank that you could land in that 21st slot. And I think that's where you could look at the other Michigan defensive tackle in Kenneth Grant. You could look at Malachi Starks. You could even look at Gray Zabel. But I think that he is even in play with the Seahawks. I think that could be a sneaky pick there. So does Chris Grier take a gamble? Here's the problem. The Steelers don't have a huge haul. Who does have a couple of nice little picks would be the Giants, would be the Browns. But I don't necessarily know if Grier would want to trade out of the first round, unless it's immediately followed by him trading back in. So there's like 500 ways the Dolphins could really go about this with trade potential, with a number of players. I'm exaggerating, of course, but there's a lot of options here, a lot of good players that they can land, even if they trade back.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Finn Sammy in the house with Finn's TV. Shout out. They do a great job, Jason. You obviously know that.
Oh, Sammy's the best.
Yeah,
Sammy,
yeah.
you're one of the best people out there. I love you, brother. Appreciate your support. And his videos, everyone,
yeah,
amazing.
Great. I second that. Tori, shout out. Let's go home. Miami Dolphins take that Super Bowl home. We all can hope. These are the kind of nights that help that. These are the kind of nights where it all starts here on Draft Night. Beach, how you doing? You just started listening. Will be an interesting night. Cap, what's up? Finn, Sammy, everybody who's watching, come on over to YouTube. If you're watching anywhere else, guys, please come on over to YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Help support us here on the Fins Faithful podcast and on the on season. We appreciate it. Okay, the trade down. See, a lot of these names we're looking at, if it's Kenny Grant or Malachi Starks, Greg Zabel, these are all guys. Maybe we're looking, at 13 is too rich for some of the fans and everybody. But maybe the Dolphins are really hoping they get a trade back. And then if you can get a Malachi Starks at 20, if you can get a Greg Zabel at 20, if you can get a Kenneth Grant, heck, if you can get an Eman Wari at 20, and you pick up, I don't know, early third or even somewhere in between if you can give me somewhere between 48 and 98 for them to close that gap, I'm okay with that. If it's somewhere, in the 60s, maybe 70s, you give me something like that with something else. I don't have the trade chart with me, but they have too many needs. And they don't have enough premium picks. While they have 10 picks, guys, it's day one. Day two, there's a massive hole. And I keep saying it, 50 players will go between 48 and 98. Just think about that. And guys that we're talking about, Jason, right?
Oh, 100%. And the guys that we loved 2 or 3 months ago have shot up to the second round. That's just the way it is. So the Dolphins would be very, very wise, but at the same time, they're rolling the die. They're rolling the dice out there to go back into the 20s. If they could pick up a pick in between 48 and 98, I wouldn't discount if they can pick up the extra pick, move back, but then they'll have a total of 11 picks. I think that they would probably want to move up in rounds 3 or 4 with that later capital and maybe next year's day 3 capital to maybe end up with 8 or 9 players. Move up if you get another pick in between 48 and 98. Let's say it's 73, whatever it is. And then you see a guy at 66, move that pick up, give that 4th up.
Yeah.
5th up. You have 2 4ths, you have 2 5ths,
or
3 7ths.
Or they can use they could do that.
I know where you're going.
Because they're gonna probably have they like to take into account the compensatory system like they did last year when they traded that this year's third, which would have been nice. The reason we don't have that gap because they anticipated, which was wrong. Christian Wilkins didn't give them a third; they gave them a 4th. With Javon Holland, they assumed maybe a 4th. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do that again, Jason. Especially guys who are on their jobs or on the hot seat. They don't need to be worrying about who's picking. Maybe the next GM is picking or the next coach is picking. So I wouldn't be surprised if they use one of those and move up to that pick. So, yeah, I think they definitely got to add another premium pick. That'd be my number one goal. I think that is their number one goal. I think we know the names of the possibilities they're going to pick. The problem is I think it depends where they pick, and the pools look quite large. I think it's like that for a lot of teams. Is it we know the names. How about let's pull up the draft board. How does that sound? Let's pull it up. I worked hard on this, guys, so I hope you appreciate it. Let's see. All right. So, again, when you look at the top 10, I think the one name that's going to jump out at you is Will Johnson, right, at 5. This is on tape only. I don't have the medicals. I'm not privy to the medicals. We'll find out tonight if he falls. That means the medicals are real. But if he goes, 11 or 13 to the Dolphins, they weren't too bad. Taking a quick zoom here, Jason, how do you like the top 10?
Look, big boards and what happens very rarely coincide, and it doesn't mean that one's right or wrong, but I like how you structured it with, you got generational talent at 1-2 in Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. At the end of the day, who is your Myles Garrett? Who's your game changer? And that's Abdul Carter. He could be an all-pro for a decade. So I like that. I like Genty at 3 because of his, capability. Obviously he's not going to be the 3rd pick, but the Johnson scenario here is very interesting because, if you're asking me after the last couple of days, the medicals and the knee, look, we all loved the Ajayi era, which was rather short because of a known aspect. We knew the shelf life was short, and that's why he dipped when he dipped in the draft. He had a knee issue. as a running back, is that harder than a cornerback? I'm not a doctor to dictate. I'm not a football player to dictate. But in the first round, in the top 13, even in the top 20-something, if there is a trade back, before a pick is going in, you got to ask yourself, especially with the GM on the hot seat, what is the safest, no questions asked pick? So that's the only thing is there is a yeah, but with Johnson. It's the knee. It's a big yeah, but. So unfortunately, 13, I think I'm a little out on that. But, if they move back into the 20s and he falls, that's a different story. Because remember, this is important too, George. If they move back, they're saving a couple of bucks, on their first rounder. Yeah. So that might help.
Yeah, remember this. This board is not this is not a mock draft board. It's totally different. Like Will Johnson, this is purely on the player. If he has a degenerative knee or something like that, obviously I'm not taking him at number 5. I just think he's one of the very few blue chip prospects in this draft. There's not many. And I'm not going to go away what I saw on film on him. And if he ends up having a degenerative knee and doesn't play in the league in 4 years, there's nothing I can do about that. But the tape, I'm not privy to the medical. So I'm going to stick to my guns on him. I think he's that kind of player. I think the rest of the top 10 is pretty, going 12 to 20. Look at it for the Dolphins, right? The difference between Malachi Starks and let's go on to Kelvin Banks is nothing. Like 12 to 20, 22. We'll go to the next, to 20, all the way down to, 30. Just Shedeur saying there's not a lot of gap between those guys. Really, 15 to 25, 25 to 50. There's not much difference. It's what you need. I mean, I have Greg Zabel at 29, but if he's the pick at 13, I'm okay with it because what he can bring in his versatility, it's just the gap is so small, Jason. I mean, honestly, there's guys in the 40s that could go in the first round because teams like what they bring and what they actually need because the gap is very small. It's not a normal draft where it's like there's probably only 12 first-round grades in this draft, right? So going back to where the Dolphins pick, I actually have Malachi Starks as a 13th rate player. So if you can move back and get him, I like Kenneth Grant. I've been on that train a lot. Josh Simmons I have higher than most because of the film I watched. And I've told you this, when I watched Donovan Jackson, I was looking at Josh Simmons. I saw a guy whose lateral agility and ability to mirror is top-notch, and he'd be the number 1 tackle healthy. So I think if he stays healthy, one of these playoff teams get their hand on him, like the Texans at 25 to replace Tunsil, would be good. Kelvin Banks, he's interesting, right? Speaking of Kelvin Banks, he's getting talk at 6 to the Raiders. Did you see that?
To go over Membo, if Membo is available, I don't see that. No.
Yeah, right.
But then again, you have to ask
I've heard it a couple places though.
Yeah, you have to ask yourself. I mean, a lot of these players, you look at like their position designation and it's just OT, CB, OL. You have to understand what a team might want to believe that player is. So if they need a right tackle, that's Membo.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
maybe the Raiders are they have Colton Miller situation going on though, so they could use it. You can play Embo inside, but like last night's show was so fun with Corey Chavis. Check that out. That mock draft was unbelievable. But he made a good point. Like he's not drafting a guard at number 6, but you can draft him in guard year 1 with the plan to have him at a tackle. Maybe when you move off some of your other veterans. You know what I'm saying? So that could be the plan. But here's the interesting part. Okay. If Banks goes 6, where does Membo go? Because you have a conviction of Tyler Warren. And I'm starting to buy that they like him. The Jets like him. But does he go to 10, 11? Does he start creeping to 13, Membo?
I for some reason, and listen, we're doing NCAA brackets here to some extent with a little study. You know what I mean? Like everyone's taking their shots. I think that the Jets and the Bears are living in coexisting universes with Armand Membo or Tyler Warren. So whoever gets one, the other gets the other, I think. So basically what I'm prepping for, and I'm looking on your board here, and let's look to 13. And this is actually setting up really fun. Because I don't expect Membo. I don't expect Graham. I put this out on a mock draft. I don't expect Tyler Warren, and I don't necessarily love the injured cornerback or the decision for, Barron as a chess piece. Do we need a chess piece or do we need a pure boundary corner? And that's another reason where what cornerback is going to go when? What certain type of wide receiver, slot versus an outside? Who's going to go when? It's what teams need. So if I'm looking at the 13th area on who the Dolphins are looking at, Malachi Starks, win. Kenneth Grant, win. And if you do trade back, guys, 3 or 4 or 5 names could be certifiable wins.
It's hard. Like, shout out to Costa in the chat. What position would you guys pick with 13? I think corner, defensive tackle, or offensive line.
Well, that's what I want the first 3 picks to be.
In any order. It's how the board breaks, right?
Right.
The value is there I feel defensive tackle you can get at 48. It's a deep group. So maybe I would lean defensive tackle round 2, and I'd go O-line or corner round 1. That would be my lean, right? But if you take Kenneth Grant, I know they love him in that building. He's plug and play. He fits a need for them. And I think the league's a little higher than him than maybe most. Where would you go, Jason, to answer Costa's? Shout out, Bobby.
I hate to be rather broad, but I'm going to say trenches. And I firmly believe if they solidify an interior presence on the offensive or defensive line, and I'm sorry, Costa, if I'm kind of like hedging here. Yeah. I think whatever you don't get, you get the next day, it's an absolute win. Now, I say that knowing that the defensive line group is rather deep. You can get a very startable player at 98. Could you get exactly what you want at 98 from an offensive line position? I don't necessarily know.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
But I do think that if they can solidify the trenches and take care of a defensive back position in that first 3 pick area, that's a heck of a way to start.
Especially if you can trade back and pick up that pick in the middle. Yeah, if they go,
he's going to do something.
Yeah, look, here's ideally what I would like. If they could go O-line, D-line. If we're going to go just trenches, I'd go O-line first, then D-tackle at 48. If we're going to do just trenches, because I think they're better off. I mean, unless Savanea is there at 48, Urzure, those are the kind of guys you're looking at. Ratledge, those are the kind of guys you're looking at 48. And shout out to Tony. Good teams are built from exactly. Maybe they finally got it. Maybe they finally realized this is the draft. We're going to start out front on both sides. So that's the hope, right? And then the Greg Zabel talk, right? I have Greg Zabel move on the list here. I got Greg Zabel at 29, but again, it's not because he's not a good player. If you take him at 13, I'm okay. But the gap between Walter Nolan, Greg Zabel, Derek Harmon, Nick Emenwari is very minute. I mean, minute. I can't emphasize that enough.
I think that you eloquently said, and I think there are a couple. See, I always look for fun little stories that develop within these drafts. To me, the 3 stories positionally, obviously it's always quarterback. Let's just put that aside because that's always there. The defensive line, how that cookie crumbles. Is it Nolan first? Is it after Grant? Is it Grant, Harmon, Nolan? Is it Nolan, Harmon, Grant? I mean, where are they going? And I'm also curious about the wide receivers, and I'm curious about the tight ends, how that goes. But, those are positions that the Dolphins can handle later, those luxury offensive positions. But the trenches and stopping the pass.
Let's see, based on my board, let's see what's kind of the offensive line. I have Savanea there. Again, some people, what flavor of ice cream you like, you could have 10 or 15. You're going to see 10 different boards in this draft. They're going to be totally different, by 20 spots. Shout out Dougie B. Again, shout out to Bobby from the Dive Bar podcast. Again, guys, we will be live with you guys. We'll wrap up the show probably about 7:45. We'll let you guys enjoy the draft. As soon as the Dolphins make their pick, maybe 10 minutes after, we got to, get ready, go to the bathroom, set up, and me and Jason will be on live with you guys after the pick to break it down. So make sure you come check us out. And at some point during the night, because I know Bobby and them, they got something, he's going live before the pick. He'll be joining us at some point. Shout out to Bobby. He's one of the best guys I know. And not just, I don't just say that on air, he's a tremendous human being and he's willing to help anybody, and he's helped me tremendously. All right. So let's look at it. Connerly Jr. These are some of the linemen, right? When you look at the board here, you'll see a lot of let's go back to where we picked 48. Look, Alfred Collins is the 48th player on my board. There's 2 DTs there. If they're gone, right, that'd be my only concern. There's a drop off there to I like Norman Lutz, but I think there's a little bit of a drop off after Williams and Collins and Darius Alexander. Would you agree with that?
There's a couple of names at the 48 area that would be phenomenal at defensive line. If TJ Sanders falls, got to consider him. If Talik Williams falls, got to consider him. But I like the trio, or the duo rather, of Darius Alexander and Alfred Collins. The proposition of one of those two at 48 would be great.
You have him 44, yeah. Well, I mean, this is just, again, not a mock. Yeah.
But the problem, if you go with the trenches front to back, first day, second round, then there is a glaring question. All right, who is going to replace Jalen Ramsey? What's going to happen on the outside of the cornerback scenario? Is it going to be Storm Duck and Cam Smith? Because we have Cater Kohu in the nickel, So to draft a Barron is almost like saying, all right, well, we're going to force feed him the outside reps because he's done that lately with Texas, but not consistently for his career. Or do you wait and get like one of the 5th, 6th, 7th ranked, a Benjamin Morrison if he falls day 3? Because I don't think you're going to have Hairston, Revel, Amos. Those guys aren't going to be available outside 48.
I love Benjamin Morrison. I have him at 38. The hip injury is an issue. That's probably why he'll fall. But again, I do it most because I don't put the medicals into consideration because I don't have them, right? But he's a heck of a corner. The hip injury does concern me, so it wouldn't surprise me if he does fall. Revel at 48, if you want to go corner, a guy I really like is at 42 here, Azrae Thomas.
I like Azrae Thomas.
Big outside press corner, physical leader. He's a big kid. I mean, real big. In person, he's big.
It would be kind of poetic license if they go through this draft and they get a Florida State corner to replace a Florida State corner in Ramsey. I think that would just be kind of cute. I mean, obviously he's not Jalen Ramsey, but that would be kind of cool. But the problem is I do think that there's going to be that wide receiver run, but there's going to be that cornerback run of 3 or 4 cornerbacks from like 25 to 38. And then all of a sudden, if you don't do something there by 48, you're looking at special team potential guys to start their career. Darian Porter, you know what I mean? But like, I think Noel Williams might be a good.
I got him. He's in the 70s for me. He's a 3rd rounder for me, but he led FBS interceptions. He's a guy I would target if I could get a pick. If he fell at 98, I'd run the card to the table. Quincy Riley, another corner. The Dolphins have interest in. I know Corey Chavis said he's a really good fit for our defense. So other corners. Let's go on to the list a little bit here further down. The quarterbacks. I don't have Jackson Dart till 50, Milroy at 56. Quarterbacks get overdrafted. These guys are not round 1 players for me, the quarterbacks. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't, because you know what? There's been a problem with developing quarterbacks of first rounders over the past couple of years in this league. And if you're an organization that's forcing taking a quarterback in the first round, and there's 2 or 3 quarterbacks that could be taken as forced taken guys, is Jackson Dart, is Jalen Milroy a first round player? I don't think so. I think they'd be better suited investment wise as a second rounder, but someone's going to trade up for one of them.
Here's your boy Jaden Higgins, 52.
And again, listen, if you look at this draft in 3 or 4 years, and you're looking, I hate saying it from a fantasy football perspective, Nico Collins. Yeah. Jalen Higgins is Nico Collins light. I'll say it now. No one thought he was going to be one of the top end producers of his class. He's right in the top 3 or 4. This is that kid. I like Higgins a lot. But do you want a small, speedier yards after catch slot, or do you want a bigger outside who can play slot, more of a jump ball kind of guy in Higgins? It's all pick your poison at this point.
Yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat here. Shout out to everybody watching. Come on over to YouTube, hit that like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys getting ready with the draft with us. We're less than half an hour away. It's finally here, man. It's Christmas here. It's like you're waking up out of your bed at night at 6 a.m. Did your parents wake up yet? That's the time we're at here. And those presents are about to be open. So this is going to be fun.
Or the Cole stockings.
Mr. Cole. Emeka Ibuka at 13. Is that the Cole?
You know what? I mean, like I said, it's going to be very hard to look at messing up this draft from the amount of needs that the Dolphins have. And you have to judge this draft when it ends. But one thing I'll say before we get back to the board, this is the first time, and I'll try to kind of say this the right way. Yeah. In like the last 10 years, the Dolphins have only had picks in the first 5 rounds, in every one of those first 5 rounds once. And this is rare territory where they have 10 picks and they're in every round except the 6th. And they have multiple picks in the 4th and 5th. So you're at 10 right now. I would love, for what I would have loved to have them to have done in 2020, trade up, trade down, manipulate the board. I would love for them to do that here. Meaning, if they do trade back to 21st or 20th, all right, good. You got your player. But maybe, you know what? Take that pick that you got, that 68, that 73, package it with a 4th, move up to 43. Move up. Go back, take the capital, move up, end up with 8 or 9 players. Boom. But you have to make sure that there's like 5 in that top 100. That would be amazing.
Yeah, 9. He's nervous. Look, I will say this though. This draft really lines up with. We keep saying it. It's going to be. I hate to say this, right? We might be putting our foot in our mouth here, but it's really hard for them to come out today with a bad pick. It's really going to be difficult. They would have to do, like, Greg Zabel's not a bad pick. Malachi Stark's not a bad pick. Kelvin Banks Jr. would be an excellent pick. Like, Jedi Barron. I have Jedi Barron at 17, but he could be on 10. It's the difference between Jedi Barron and the number 10 player is just very much, again, just there's no difference, right? So they're all in that range. Kenneth Grant would be a good pick. Heck, even Walter Nolan would be a good pick, right? Like, I know nobody's talking about him, but Walter Nolan, he's got a lot of juice inside. He's different, right? He's got Walter Nolan, if he gets everything together, could be as good as he wants to be. All right. So, like, a wild card would be Colston Loveland. I got news for you. That'd be a heck of a pick. Like, I know they wouldn't like it, but you'd like it in September, October, November. You'd be a heck of a pick, Tony.
I'll tell you, if the culture,
find a way.
if the culture listening to you and mock draft simulators have anything to say, let's have the Colts trade with the Dolphins back that one and get
spot,
a
4th.
That ain't gonna happen. That's not gonna happen.
They'd give you like a 4th though. They might because look, like we said at the top of the show, the trade up for the Dolphins. This is not how do I put it? A lot of teams want to trade back in this draft, right? They want to get more picks because there's not really high quality on the top. But in the Dolphins situation, they pick in front of a tight end team. And after Loveland, there's a drop-off, right? I mean, there's Mason Taylor, but, he has some late first-round buzz. I'd be surprised, but you never know. Like, I've heard him at the Rams. But if a team wants Loveland bad enough, then the Colts know that. Maybe the Colts say, hey, look, we'll give you a 4th. We'll sweeten it a little bit, and you only move down one spot, and you still get the guy you want because you probably weren't taking the tight end anyways, right? So, and then you have 3/4. That you take 2 of those and you move up in the 3rd round to fill that gap between 48 and 98. You play chess, not checkers, Chris Greer.
I know it's wishful thinking. I'm hearing you. I'm agreeing with you. And I know people are thinking that we're talking like Sonny Weaver Jr. from draft day and just going to have fun like that. But once upon a time, teams could do that. And teams do that. You dance around the board if you have the ammunition to do so. And this is a desperate kind of draft for Greer, McDaniel, this contingency. And if you can come away with 4, 5 startable players, and I include impact players on special teams. Day 3 is special teams day. And I can't emphasize that enough. You can draft 2 players that could be on your coverage unit week 1 and help a very poor special teams coverage unit the last, 7 years, 6 years?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to fix a football team. Is there a way to get to a Super Bowl contender? I don't think so at this exact moment. But is there a way to maybe
this has got to be an attitude and culture change draft for the Dolphins.
This is the foundational draft that they should have had in 2020.
That's the problem, right? More than they have to get, is this going to put them in Super Bowl contention? Everything would have to break right between. They'd have to have they'd have to have a San Francisco 49ers draft. That great draft they had, or one of those drafts plus hit on post June 1st free agency, plus Tua and everybody else who's injury prone stay healthy. The edges come back. That's a lot of ifs, right? But change the attitude, the culture, build some young leaders in this draft. That's what they need to do. That should be their focus, right? Don't look where these players ranked. If you take Greg Zabel and he's a leader on your offensive line, so be it. You take Greg Zabel and you come back in round 2 and take Alfred Collins, hit, home run, right? Don't give me the grade. You change the attitude and the culture of your franchise and your line of scrimmage. That's the problem in January, December, okay? You don't do it with 5'9", 4'3" receivers. That's kind of been the problem, right? And 6-foot quarterbacks always get hurt.
Here's another thing that I'm looking for. If there is like a day 2 or a day 3 trade, maybe even going into next year's picks, like you mentioned,
yeah,
the position that they pick with that trade up. Like last year, they made a trade with the Eagles. They drafted Jalen Wright, and the next year they released Raheem Mostert. Now Jalen Wright and Devon Achane should be the duo. Let's see if there's a third added to the mix. Alexander Madison, a drafted player. So if they make a deal and they draft a wide receiver, that may say, all right, this is going to be Tyreek Hill's replacement sooner than later. If they draft the cornerback, all right, this is going to be Jalen Ramsey's replacement, maybe immediately. So I'd be really interested to see.
I think they're going to go. I think they're going to go more of guys who can play now than the 1 year next year replacement. But the Tyreek Hill replacement is coming sooner rather than later. And if it's going to be a replacement, I hope it's a big receiver. And we got some. I'll move on. Dolphins fans, we're here. Dolphin fans, we're here. All right.
This is a therapy group session. Right now before the draft.
Looking here between 67 and 88, my man Charles Grant, I love him. Noah Williams, we talked about. I love Dylan Sampson. He's one of my Jalen Royals, another receiver. Kyle Williams, you mentioned TJ Sanders. Your boy Savion Williams made the list at 84. That was special for you, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And he's too much fun to not have on a top 100 board.
Too much fun. Shout out, Jake. Happy draft day, everybody.
Hey,
everybody enjoy the draft. I really hope you do. I'm in my other room, my brother's man cave over there. We got about 100 wings. I got beer. I got alcohol. I got and good company. So as soon as we're done here, I'm going to jump over there and have some fun. They're watching. Shout out to them. They're watching the show now. I hope everything's going good over there in the next room and nobody's eating all the food, before I get back. All right. Now my favorite is probably the last part of this list. Take a look at number 99. Take a look at number 97. Those are my bang the table guys, right? I like Tess. I love Ransaw. Cameron Mabuk. I'm not as you like Makuba. I have him here at 90. Still, somebody could have him at 60. 60 to 90, not much difference. This is just a strange draft. I've done a top 100 board for 2 years in a row. This is my third year. This one is completely different. It was much easier. Sorry, bro. Wings are gone. Shout out to my cousin James. So Zal Frazier made it. And anybody who stands out to you at the end of this list here that you like or don't like?
There are guys that could be tremendous value in that 98 range. Look at right there, Ty Robinson. I like Caleb Bradshaw as you do. I think Tesla is more of a day 3 guy. I think if you reach for him up there,
I'm doing it.
Not terrific, but
I'll jump in my pool outside if they take him at 98. I will do it, and I will video it.
That to me, it's a little rich. It's a little rich. But hey,
I know.
If that's the 4th pick, if they make a deal back and they get one of those other picks, sure.
Ideally, 116, 135, those kind of picks. That's what I would love to have them. But honorable mentions. A bunch of guys. Quincy Riley's a guy I could easily. These guys, you could extend this list. And if I put it this way, if I switch the list left to right, it'd be fine too. You get what I'm saying? So I love Caldwell, the 2 offensive linemen from LSU, Tootin, the running back. The guy I left DJ Giddens off. I left Dante Thornton Jr. off. Other honorable mentions. Anybody you like in the honorable mentions?
I like Miles Frazier, another interior guard who, an interior guy who can play either guard slot. So, that's what, in a perfect world, if the Dolphins can get great defensive line, great cornerback, and land a very good guard-ready startable player like a Frazier, like a Tate Ratledge, like a Jackson Slater, like a Fairchild, that would be good. But if they do go Gray Zabel, hey, listen.
It's fine.
That's fine. We'll break defensive lineman,
and whoever they get, guess what? We'll be after the pick to break it down. So I know you had to head out soon, and you had some other obligations. We'll wrap it up here. You want to do any final thoughts or predictions for the pick? It's very hard draft to predict.
I mean, look, all it takes is one or even two in the top 10 to throw a monkey wrench in this whole thing. Do two teams move up into draft quarterbacks before Miami? Because that's pushing players down. Does Will Campbell slide? You know what I mean? So you don't know. And I'll leave you with the quote. It's the realest quote I've ever heard about this draft. The NFL draft is a living, breathing organism that changes with each and every pick. So something's changing at every moment with these boards. So enjoy it. Yeah. Have fun, everybody.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. Enjoy this draft. Kick back. Turn your cell phones off. Don't do the spoilers.
Right. Okay.
Don't do the spoilers. I almost love the draft when there was no social media because it's the suspense of ding, 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 right. and then the commissioner comes up and announces the picks. I miss that. I stay off social media. I mean, I'll tweet, especially when the Dolphins pick, though. I'll stay off like maybe a pick before or even two nowadays to catch them. So, okay, to finish it off here, again, we will be live after the pick, maybe 5-10 minutes after the Dolphins pick. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Turn the notification off. There's a notify me thing that on the show. You'll find it on the home page of the Fins Faithful podcast. Check it out. We'll be back live after the draft. Come join us. We'll break down no matter who they pick. Jason and I will break it down, and we should have a special guest at some point. The man on the screen there who said they ruined the pick, spoiling the picks, Bobby Shouse Jr. Will be joining us at some point after he's done with his show. So we're excited for that, and we'll have you covered up tomorrow too. We'll come on after the. I think we'll do, Jason. I'm thinking after the two picks, we'll come on after the end of the draft. Does that sound good to you? Or instead of going one pick, then one pick, we'll just break it down all in one. No problem, Costa. Guys, come back with us tonight after the pick. Enjoy the draft. Eat a lot of food. Don't drink and drive. And don't break any TVs after your favorite team doesn't pick the guy you want, because that happens. Because
we call that the Deion Jordan remote breaking the TV throw. That happened.
Yeah, Deion, and you pass up Lane Johnson.
Broke a lot of TVs there.
There's more than that though. I'll tell you when I got one. It was Jason Allen pick. I didn't like the Jason Allen pick. That's a random Jason Allen. Shout out, guys. All right, guys. We will see you after the pick. Make sure you come join and check us out. Enjoy the draft. Have a happy, safe draft day. Let's go. As always.
Fins up.
Fins up.